Hi everybody, welcome to The Limit Breakdown. I'm your host Sid.
And I'm Migs.
And we review everything in TV, movies, and entertainment. Today we're going to be covering the next episode of House of the Dragon, the prequel series to Game of Thrones. So stick around after our intro for a deep dive review of episode 8.
Hi everybody, welcome back to The Limit Breakdown, where we break down the latest in movies, TV, and everything going on in entertainment. Today we're going to be reviewing episode 8 of the Game of Thrones prequel, House of the Dragon. Just a little cleanup first. Thank you for all your support. Check us out on all major podcast platforms, also YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. And we appreciate your support. Please comment, like, and subscribe. Alright guys, we're going to start with our preview of the episode. So basically, episode 8 kicks off with Rhaenys sitting on the Driftwood throne. Corlys Velaryon had once again gone off to war. The Triarchy had shown its face again on the Stepstones. He had been ambushed and defeated, and he is now sick with a fever. So it doesn't look very likely that he's going to survive. Apparently, death doesn't like him as much as it likes Viserys, because Viserys is still somehow
How is Viserys alive? I genuinely do not understand that man.
But Baela, Daemon's daughter, has been kept by Rhaenys as a ward, and also as kind of a way for Daemon to be able to keep tabs on everything going on in Driftmark. Corlys's brother Vaemond basically came to Rhaenys to say that he's going to petition the king to be formally named the heir of Driftmark should Corlys die, and basically overlook Lucerys as who would be the next rightful heir. But, you know, the allegations against Rhaenyra's kids is not actually being full-blooded Valyrian. So, Velaryons. So, Baela sends a raven over to Daemon and Rhaenyra and Dragonstone to let her know of Vaemon's intention. Mm-hmm. So they fly back to King's Landing, where it's discovered that Viserys is sick in bed. Basically no longer participating in any of the ruling, and it's pretty much Alicent and Otto running the show.
How typical.
So all of that transpires. They had this nice, beautiful little scheme planned up where Aemond was going to petition the king, but since the king wasn't going to be there, the Hand was going to stand in his place. They were gonna supplant Lucerys for Vaemond, which would also call into question Jacerys's possible ascension to the throne after Rhaenyra, and it was gonna be this cascade effect that they thought was gonna ultimately facilitate them putting Aegon on the throne instead of Rhaenyra. But surprise to everyone, even to himself, Rhaenyra pleaded with her dad to be lucid for one more day, and he managed to stumble his one-armed, half-decayed body. At this point, he had lost half his face. He's got this really badass
I was about to say,
mask.
I think if somebody would cosplay that, I think it would be phenomenal cosplay.
Yeah.
It actually looks really cool. Minus the fact that he looks like death.
Yeah.
He reminds me of the pirates in Pirates of the Caribbean, like when they were under the moonlight, and they're kind of like their faces are half decayed, and when they open their jaw, you can see inside. That's what it reminded me of. I was like, that's actually pretty cool.
But yeah, so Viserys comes in, much to everybody's surprise, and Vaemon's plan is seemingly going up in smoke, and he's upset, but he's not gonna go out without a bang. He puffs up his chest and calls the kids bastards and calls Rhaenyra a whore, and Vizzy T isn't gonna have that, pulls out his knife, and before anybody can say anything, Daemon was like, nah, bruh, we handling this right now. And Vaemon is executed on the spot.
He can keep his tongue.
He can keep his tongue. So during this whole time, the High Towers have kept Viserys pretty much docile with Milk of the Poppy. Which, you know, I guess is like the Westerosi version of morphine.
Yeah.
So it's prone to, like, you know, basically make him completely docile, cause hallucinations, and so, you know, they when Rhaenyra pleaded to him to basically defend her, he refused to take any more Milk of the Poppy and was able to recover somewhat. So while he's still lucid, he looks at Otto and he asks him to put together one last family dinner. And so he uses this family dinner to basically plead to his family, hey, you know, we're all family here. You guys are everything that matters most to me. If you value me, don't do it for your king. Do it for your father, your grandfather,
your husband,
and so on. And for a moment, it looked like there might be some type of hope. And then the younger generation is like, nah, we still doing this.
Hold my ale.
And so there's a whole bunch of tensions. Fortunately, it did all happen before. It did happen after Viserys left. Viserys started feeling more ill. And at least, you know, one of the last things he saw was his family somewhat kind of getting along. And I think that was just what he needed to be able to make that final push. And the ending scene of the episode is him laying down and basically calling out for her wife, or his first wife. Not before, though, getting himself confused because he had drank some more Milk of the Poppy, and I guess he thought he was talking to Rhaenyra, and when he was actually talking to Alicent, and he's telling her about how he actually really believed the prophecy of the prince that was promised, that was passed on from Aegon the Conqueror. And of course, Alicent hears what she wants to hear, and the only thing she hears is Aegon is the prince that was promised.
Yeah.
And so she says, oh, okay, you want Aegon to sit on the throne. I understand. And that's how that goes. All right. Whew. Man, that's a lot that happened in one episode.
And we didn't even get nitty gritty of it.
So let's kick off with your thoughts, man.
Alright, this episode was insanity. So it's, 6 years later. Everyone's now questioning who will sit on the throne of Driftmark. Obviously, you said the brother's like, nah, me. I feel this whole show is about who is sitting on what throne and who's marrying who, so the next person can sit on a throne. That's this whole show. That's been the compiling.
It's such a weird. I mean, obviously, you know, they had all of the titles and all of the positions are all, you know, dictated by lines of succession, and so even though, like, obviously, you know, we're at least, you know, I'll say that I'm biased towards Rhaenyra because I find her character to be the more likable one. But I mean, when you look at it from the perspective of the character, like, Vaemon wasn't wrong. Viserys and Jacaerys are not pure Valyrians. Technically. And so, you know, he's like, you know, I want my house to remain within members of my house.
Yeah.
And, you know, these guys are bastards. They're not members of my house. So but him trying to align himself with the High Towers, the little scheme that they came up with was all contingent on the High Towers being able to keep Viserys under wraps, and he picked the wrong day for them to be lucid.
Yeah, it was a very, very powerful scene when we walked in. They're like, oh my god, there goes our plans.
Oh, it was beautiful. Seeing the disappointment in their face was absolutely
bad. The one thing, what I was doing earlier, so now that the kids are grown up, I don't like Rhaenys kids.
Okay.
Rhaenyra's kids. I thought they were going to be more logical, maybe a little bit smarter. You know, they just seemed like wimps. Right, when they were kids, I understand, but now they still, at least to me, they still seem like wimps.
I think I didn't get that, like the scene where they're, because you also
go to the training camp.
Well, okay, yeah. So bringing up that particular scene and bringing up Aemon, right? So yeah,
Duck face the whole time, duck face.
I don't know. It's more the crimson chin, man. That actor has like such a jawline.
When you said, have you seen Zoolander?
Yeah.
The blue steel. Or Valerian.
Yeah, no, he was definitely mugging the whole time. But no, Aemon has such a chip on his shoulder.
Yeah.
Like, I guarantee you that Aegon is nowhere near as proficient on the battlefield as Aemon is.
He's proficient on a different battlefield. Which we'll get to.
Well,
he uses a different sword.
Nobody told them they're not supposed to fight back. Oh, that's a terrible joke.
Anyways,
Aemon, you know, he's always had a chip on his shoulder. That's the whole reason why he risked his life to go after Vhagar. And, you know, he's always had this chip on his shoulder, so he's dedicated himself to training. He's dedicated himself to this. And, you know, even I'm sure they have a master at arms at Dragonstone. I'm sure they have knights that can teach them, but they don't have a Kristen Cole.
Yeah.
They don't have someone that's going to, like, teach them how to actually, you know, fight with that ferocity, and then they themselves don't have that killer instinct that Aemon obviously has. So, do I know? Would I? Are they a little bit more meek than Aemon is? Yeah, but Aemon also, like, he's been feeling himself since the day he rode that dragon.
Yeah, fair. And then his brother, obviously living the best of his prince life. I feel like Aegon is doing what Rhaenyra did when she was younger. He's just like, I'm gonna do who I want and drink what I want, and no consequences. And in my mind, it makes sense.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't care. That's what I want to do.
Well, I don't actually think that he thinks he's going to be king. Yeah. I think that he sees all the planning and all the scheming and all the machinations, but he ultimately thinks, well, my sister's going to be queen, and then her son's going to be king after that. So, like, I don't know how they're going to pull this off. They keep telling me I'm going to be king, but I just don't see it. And he doesn't care. Like, he's perfectly happy drinking all day and
doing other things. Yeah. The other child, Helena. I love her, man. Helena to me is one of the best characters, even though she only has a few scenes. I think she's the best character. Her little quippets here and there. She was only in one scene, I think, this last episode, but still, I think it's hilarious. Moving forward to, let's see, so the courtroom scene happened. Oh, the scene where Viserys is in bed. And Daemon and Rhaenyra go to see him. And
they now have 2 kids.
Yeah. How many kids does this woman have?
5.
And the 6th on the way.
Yes.
Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 6th on the way.
Yeah, so
and they're
it's
all boys.
It's
Jace?
Jacerys. Lucerys. Joffrey.
Who I did not see as much.
Yeah.
They mentioned him.
He was smaller.
Yeah.
They showed him in the beginning whenever Jacerys was trying to learn High Valyrian.
Yeah. Okay.
I want to go back to that a little bit because that kind of was one of the scenes that stood out to me. Because while Aegon is being told that he's going to be king, instead of preparing himself, he's just doing whatever. While Jacerys is trying to learn High Valyrian, he's studying the map. And then, you know, Rhaenyra tells him, hey, you know, it's okay. Like, you're not going to learn High Valyrian in a day. And, his response is, I want to keep going. A king should be aware of his culture.
I think he meant king as Driftmark king.
Yeah. Well, no, because Jacerys isn't going to be the Lord of Driftmark. His brother is. Because the assumption the assumption
Luke is going to be
Yeah, because Jacerys is going to be king.
Yes. That's right.
But I thought that was a good difference between the two. And and just going back to this whole fake morality that Alicent is holding Rhaenyra to, because she finds out about what happens with Aegon and the servant girl, right? And you're telling me that she just had a bag of gold and moon tea just
I think
happily.
it's happened before.
Yeah, you know what I'm
She's
saying? Yeah. So it's
when Plan B turns into Plan A.
Plan Moon Tea. Plan T.
Oh man.
Yeah, no, but I mean, again, like she's held Rhaenyra to this morality, and here, obviously, this is not the first time. This is not the first incident. But just like we said in the other episode, when she caught him, standing out the window with his pecker out, like that, she didn't even remotely look surprised. Like, it was not the first time. So he has this pattern of behavior. And he even tells her, it's like, what do you want from me? Like, I've done everything that you have asked for me, and I'll never be good enough for you.
Yeah, fair enough. But so Rhaenyra and Daemon see the king, and they're like, dude, he's in horrible shape. Clearly accuse Alicent, and Otto be like, you're doing something.
Yeah,
and
did
Daemon
you notice?
smells the thing. He's like,
yeah.
something's not right. And he's like, you're giving him milk of the poppy. You're not giving him this thing.
Yeah.
Which you're supposed to.
Yeah.
What's going on? They're like, oh, it's better for him. He's like, I like how Daemon is just, he says the thing that we're thinking, but the audience is thinking. He's like, BS. Right there.
Yeah. He had no time whatsoever for their BS. And I think this is one of the aspects of Daemon. Like, it's one of the main reasons why I think Daemon is my favorite character so far, even though he did murder his wife and has done questionable things, but at the same time, like, his love for his family is genuine. His love for his brother is genuine. And the more I look at the events of the series, I don't feel like, because at first it was kind of portrayed like Daemon was just power hungry for the throne. And honestly, I think had Viserys asked him to be his hand, like, I think he would have been maybe not as good a hand as, say, Lionel Strong, but I think he would have been a better hand than Otto, and it would have not has been as self-serving.
Yeah.
Because I think he pretty much saw that Viserys is a people pleaser, and that people were going to take advantage of that, and he wanted to be beside his brother to protect him.
Yeah.
And for me, I thought it was very telling when Viserys is coming down. He's making his way towards the Iron Throne when nobody was expecting him to, and he's prideful. People are offering to help him, and he's not accepting help from anyone. And the soldier comes up to help him up the stairs, and he goes, no, I can help him. And then the very next scene, you see somebody else trying to help him, and he's going to refuse them again. And then he looks up and sees that it's Daemon, and he's the only one he lets help him.
Yeah. And
I found out online that the scene was actually improvised when he's helping Viserys onto the throne, and Viserys' throne falls off, and he picks it up, and then places the crown on his head. Apparently, that wasn't planned; that was improvised, and they liked the shot so much that they kept it in.
I thought that was really clever.
Daemon is furious over the way that they're basically taking advantage of Viserys' condition and purposefully keeping him sedated,
so they can do whatever they want. So now getting to the thick of the episode. So as we mentioned, that scene was basically a court case of who's going to be King of Driftmark. My favorite line was when the king comes in, he's like, I must admit, I'm a bit confused. My lack of knowledge. Why are we doing this? I thought we already decided this, right? I'm sorry. Can you explain to me? And he's like, the only one who has the right to say anything is Rhaenys. So he's like, you may speak. And she obviously backtrack a few scenes. Rhaenyra and Rhaenys had a conversation. Obviously, Rhaenys blames Rhaenyra for killing Laenor. Rightly so. And Rhaenyra's like, how about we join houses.
Yeah.
And, perfect line, because Rhaenys is like, no, why would I do that? It sounds like you're desperate. She's like, and so?
Mm-hmm.
You get what you want, I get what I want. How does it matter if I sound desperate or what?
Mm-hmm.
It's the perfect thing. So, obviously, at the court scene, Rhaenys is like, I support Luke. Luke should be, we'll go with tradition.
Yeah, and the basic compromise there was, the concern of the Valerians was, Jason and Lucerys weren't of pure Valerian blood, so by wedding Bela and Rhaena to Jason Luke, then regardless, their offspring would be Valerians.
Yep.
So that resolves the entire issue right there.
Yeah. And obviously, as we mentioned,
Vaemond.
Mm-hmm. There needs to be some simpler names. Vaemond is like, yeah, no. And as soon as that happened, he's like, that's not good. I want them true blood. And need the scene. He's like, I'll cut my blood and show you. He's like, they're not who, whatever. And then Daemon is like,
say it.
Say it. Say it. And then he spills his guts.
Oh, man. Dude, he'd been holding on to that for a while. Because he put his whole chest in it. Bastards!
Oh, man. He's like, and your daughter.
I know, but I love how Viserys still had a little bit of gangster in him. He gets up, he pulls out the blade.
Yeah, he's like,
I'll have your tongue for that.
And then immediately, shing!
Look, I'm not gonna lie.
That scene.
I'm not gonna lie. Like, I fully expected that Vaemond was not gonna walk out of that throne room. In one I expected maybe he'd walk out in chains. I didn't expect he'd walk out of that throne room. I did not expect for his head to just... He turned him into a South Park Canadian. He did.
Oh man, that was hilarious. And then Daemon goes, nah, he can keep his tongue.
Oh god.
I think
No, the visual, dude, because he cut him right above the mouth, so the tongue is like hanging out. Yeah.
I now love Daemon so much. Like, I originally hated him, but my perspective of Daemon has changed so much, and I genuinely love him. I think he's a great, great character because it shows you not only, yes, on the surface he looks very selfish, but he genuinely cares because there's a scene right before when Vaemond is talking and he's like, I want it to be my house or whatever. And if you look, Daemon looks at Rhaenyra, and Rhaenyra does the and then you can tell Daemon's like, all right,
it's about to go
all
down.
Right. So that scene was amazing.
The one thing I want to point out about that scene in particular is just kind of a little bit disturbing, but like Aemond and Daemon, like Aemon, the one-eyed kid, like he looks up to Daemon, like hardcore, like hardcore. And I feel like when he cut off Vaemon's head, like Aemon was sitting over there with a boner.
Yeah, he had a hard on for. He's like,
he was all about it.
His sword also.
Oh yeah,
saluted.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was insane. So speaking of the following scene, right? So now they're having the dinner, they're having the supper with the whole family. Rhaenyra the king gives his speech, whatever. Rhaenyra now gives her speech, gives her toast, and kind of again she wants to extend a friendly hand. I think Rhaenyra is actually very tactical. But she does genuinely care. She's not as self-serving. She's like, I will do what's right for everybody, but it's also going to affect me.
Yeah.
But I think she's very tactical. Actually, I really like her. So she gives her apology again, because she's given in previous episodes to Maleficent. And she's like, to the queen, you've stood by my father, yada yada. Now Alicent is like, I guess I'll have to do this, but the words she spoke were genuine, and I
Yeah.
felt like that was a very change in her characteristic.
It was very interesting for me to see this because it did feel genuine. It did feel like they had come to somewhat of an understanding and had things played out differently because, you know, on the one hand, you look back throughout the series so far and, you know, it's hard to forget at this point. I mean, it's easy to forget at this point that, you know, they were once at one time best friends, possibly more.
Yeah.
And so, but, you know, she does genuinely share affection. And the facts are facts. Like, Alicent has taken care of Viserys. She's fathered his children. She's done her duty. Like, she's gone above and beyond for Viserys, but it's that jealousy that I feel that kind of clouded everything, and it looked for a slight moment that they were all compelled by Viserys' words, you know, to kind of like, you know, come together for a little bit, but then you also see them reaping what they sowed because they've been sowing so much hatred between the kids. They've been sowing so much strife and bitterness amongst all of them that as soon as Viserys goes ahead and, you know, he's not feeling very well, so he retires for the day. He has that wonderful scene of where he sees Helena and Jacaerys dancing, and it looks like, you know, they're actually having a decent time. And this is the funny thing because I thought it was going to be, I mean, it did end up being Aemon that kicked everything off, but it was actually Lucerys that started everything because the king leaves and then they bring in the boar to feast and they place the boar in front of Aemon.
Yep.
And then Luke looks at Aemon and starts giggling. and that's when Aemon was like, oh, you think this shit is funny. And that's when he gets up and he gives his toast to the strongest boys. His nephews that are so strong.
Oh, man, that scene. And I felt, so that's what I was saying earlier. Like, I don't know how I feel because as soon, I mean, obviously they knew what was going on. Both the boys come out. Jace punches Aemon and nothing. He's just like,
yeah. Well, and I think Aemon did that on purpose. I think he wanted to kind of get a feel for what Jace had, and he was just like, "Oh, I'm not impressed by you."
Yeah, I thought that was hilarious. Also, the snide comments between
Aegon
and Jace. It's like, do you know where to put it? And he's like, oh my god, let it be.
I did love how Helena did kind of come to Jace's defense a little bit, because when she did hair toast, she was like, well, you know, being married is not so bad. He'll probably just ignore you unless he's drunk.
Yeah. Oh man, that was hilarious. That was good. Good quip from her end. Yeah. Another thing is, as soon as that fight was about to break down, you know, everyone's going to calm their kids down. And then Daemon casually goes up to Jason. He's like, just chillax. And then he turns out and just stands there and he looks at Aemon. And Aemon's like,
Senpai recognized me.
Yeah. I feel down the line there's going to be a fight between Aemon and
Daemon.
Daemon and Daemon. And I think that fight is going to be amazing.
I don't want to spoil anything.
God! People that read books.
I don't want to spoil anything, but it's going to be good.
I'm learning how to read, okay?
Nicole actually pointed this out to me. So when Aemon and Jacaerys start fighting, and then Aegon grabs Luke and slams his head. His head into the table. Right? I didn't notice it, but Nicole pointed it out to me that Baela, I don't know if it was Baela or Rhaena, but one of them stood up to get into the fight, and the other one had to hold her back. Like they were ready to get into it.
I mean, they were ready since remember last time.
Yeah, I mean they had that gang fight.
Same fight, older kids.
And they actually, like, when they announced that they would be betrothed to the other two, like, they seemed actually genuinely happy. Like, they were like, oh, you know.
Because from the previous episode or 2 episodes ago when on the funeral of
Lena.
Lena, Rhaenys. Oh my God, Ray Ray. Ray Ray had told her kids to go, hold hands with their cousins, be like, hey, give them support.
They've obviously
I think since then
developed a relationship. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's definitely building on them. That I can't remember how this episode ended.
So the fight goes on. Rhaenyra at this point goes, you know what? I think it's better that we take the kids back to Dragonstone, and this is after they had kind of had that almost reconciliatory moment, and Alicent is like, no,
she held her hand, and as soon as she did that, in my mind, I was like, why are you holding her hand?
Yeah,
and then Rhaenyra herself is like,
yeah. I still feel that it was genuine. I still feel like had she at that moment been like, hey, Daemon, take the kids home, I'm gonna stay here with my father, because they had to know at that moment that like he was gonna go any day.
Yeah.
And so she was just like, you just got here, you should stay. And she goes, I'll take the kids home and then come back on Dragonback.
Yeah.
And so they all leave, and it's now Viserys in his bed, clinging for his last breath.
That's the last.
Clinging for his last breath. And he's
repeating.
He gets the milk of the poppy. Yeah, he gets the milk of the poppy. And all the conversation that spurred him to go to the throne room was Rhaenyra was sitting there by herself while he's in this hallucinatory state. And she's basically confronting him, and she's just like, I thought that I wanted to rule. You told me that I was the rightful one to rule, but you didn't tell me that all the BS that was going to come along with it. And, do you even truly believe in Aegon's prophecy? Because if we're supposed to have the realm united, then what you did divided the realm. It would have been so much simpler had you just named Aegon the king, and then I wouldn't even have to do this. We wouldn't be going through this. Is like, she's like, if you really think that I'm the one that has to bear this responsibility, then I need you to stand up for me.
Yeah.
And for me, I felt like that moment, had Viserys spoke with the same authority that he spoke in that throne room from the beginning, none of this would have ever happened.
Yeah. Because
he came in and he settled that situation. He just squashed it.
Yep.
And he was his strongest at his weakest. But unfortunately, it's one of those too little, too late situation. Too many seeds have been planted.
Milks of the poppies have been drank.
Right, and so now he's clasping for his last breath. Alicent gives him some more milk of the poppy, and he trips back, and he thinks that he's talking to Rhaenyra, and he's like, "You asked me if I thought the prophecy was true." And Alicent's like, "What prophecy? What are you talking about?" And like, of course, all she hears is Aegon and the prince that was promised, and she's like, "I understand."
Yep.
And I don't know, man. I don't know how I feel about that particular choice, because now she feels like she's honoring his last wishes. Yeah. And she has like more of a righteous indignation to basically.
She's already very like, from the beginning she's very righteous. She's very, I want to do the right thing, honorable. So once she hears this, you're right, she's gonna immediately think, this is it. Yeah. This is the word of the king. I have to follow it no matter what.
And like, you have to know, like, even, I think that this gives the supporters of the Greens an out to be able to say, well, she did what she thought was right. She did what she thought the king wanted to do. When in actuality, like, for a fact that he's drinking milk of the poppy, that what the effects of that has, and she basically heard what she wanted to hear. She was looking for something to grab onto to make her feel morally justified, because I think that at that dinner she felt like the right thing to do would be to unite the family and support Rhaenyra. But now this was just enough of a leaf
push
for her to grab onto, to be like, no, Aegon is the one that needs to sit at the throne. And the episode ends with Viserys calling out for his wife, this is my love, and then it all goes to black. And so we're gonna see if he's still alive next episode.
I swear to God, if he's still alive, this man, he has to have the curse of the Black Pearl.
I'm fairly confident that he died this episode. But man, I have to give it up for Paddy Considine. He has played a phenomenal King Viserys.
Yeah.
Like the amount of emotion that he's brought into the role, the amount of
from a earlier king to now, the dynamic has changed for his character, the way he talks, the way he walks, everything about it.
Are you familiar with? I'm sure you're familiar with Reddit, right? Mm-hmm. There's a Game of Thrones subreddit called the Free Folk, right? And the Free Folk are notorious for not being kneelers, right? And so they were like trashing on Game of Thrones when it ended, and they were trashing on House of the Dragon when it first started coming out, and their whole thing is we don't accept anything unless it's actually good, right? And the common thread right now is how everyone on the Free Folk all of a sudden became kneelers for King Viserys.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. So no, but there was an exchange that Paddy Considine put online where he said he got a text from George R.R. Martin that told him that his King Viserys was better than the one that George R.R. Martin wrote.
Wow.
Yeah, he said,
really?
And so he goes, okay, that'll do that.
Nice.
I guess that's
awesome.
it.
Yeah.
And dude, I have to agree. Like, having read the source material, man, like Viserys, he was a very bland character in Fire and Blood, and the amount of life, like they've turned him from a bland character into such a compelling and tragic story.
Yeah.
And like it has been genuinely awesome to see this character brought to life by such a fantastic actor.
Yeah.
Definitely appreciate it. If this man doesn't win an Emmy, man.
Yeah.
Tragic.
The one thing that I have found odd is everyone has gone through actor changes because they're older. Viserys, dying of old age, and Daemon looks exactly the same.
Corlys looked exactly the same. Otto looked exactly the same. Crispy Kristen looks exactly
Crispy. Oh my God! How does Crispy Cole look exactly the same?
Hey, they gave him a haircut. Okay, they gave him a haircut.
His beard is getting shorter. I think.
Only young kids have the long hippie hair.
God.
Okay?
At least give him some lines, or like tears for crying because he got rejected by his first girlfriend. Something.
This was the first episode we didn't see Larys.
Oh, Larys.
Yeah. Oh no, and we didn't talk about Mysaria. So the white worm, the little I guess the lady at the brothel that was with Daemon.
Oh yeah, I have no idea what's going on there.
Well, I thought it was funny because I see somebody in a crime hoodie, and I'm like, oh, Damon's gonna go, check in with Mysaria, see how's the family and all that. And then it's like, no. And it was Alicent's servant. So Mysaria has spies in Alicent's camp, so.
Yeah, I didn't even, you know what? I didn't even think about it. What happened to his wife? Like, because he chose her, and then he just left her. He's like, I'll do what I want.
They weren't married.
After they got married when he moved to Dragonstone.
No, that was a lie. He never married her. Just like the whole thing about her being pregnant was a lie. Like the whole reason.
The pregnancy, I remember, because he's like, well, she would be.
Yeah.
I thought he actually married her.
No,
okay, so she was forever his side piece, and he just never went forward.
Yeah,
okay. The plot thickens. Fair. Final thoughts?
Another great episode. I'm super stoked for next week. Oh, man, this is... Like I said, honestly, like, I know we're 8 episodes in. It's a little bit premature, but I'm ready to call it. I am saying that season 1 of House of the Dragon, for me, tops season 1 of Game of Thrones. I'm calling it.
I'll have to see. I'm not going to say it yet because Game of Thrones at that time, we didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
Right? We had no idea what it was except for people who actually read it. And even then, nobody knew. Nobody knew. You didn't know. I didn't even know until season 5, in all honesty. But anyways, now that most people are aware, I think they're already looking into it with a certain dissection. So I think it's different. But
well, I mean, and also, like, there's no denying the cultural impact that Game of Thrones had. Like, you know, had this been a brand new IP, a brand new show, you know, I don't know how much more success it is and how much more success can be attributed to the fact that it is a Game of Thrones spinoff. But, like, I mean, dude, my favorite part of Sundays, aside from watching the episode, is immediately going online after the episode on Reddit and looking at all the memes and looking at all of the commentaries. Like, it's absolutely great.
fair.
Yeah, so we're good to go. You guys can catch us on all major podcast platforms, on Instagram, YouTube. If you haven't subscribed to us, please subscribe. And we appreciate. Leave a like, leave a comment, and thanks. We'll catch you next time.